Imagine losing literally everything, like your family, your home, your whole identity just wiped out in a single afternoon.
Right, which in reality, that kind of devastation just breaks a person completely.
Exactly, but in anime. That is usually the exact moment they become an absolute legend. So welcome to today's deep dive for you into the alchemy of loss, where our mission is to extract the actual psychological truth behind why these legendary characters only transform after hitting rock bottom.
It's such a fascinating pattern.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this, because it brings up a really uncomfortable question for us to look at. Does suffering actually make people stronger? Or is that just, a myth we tell ourselves to feel better when life falls apart?
That is a vital question, because the reality is suffering doesn't automatically forge a hero. I mean, oftentimes it just destroys people, leaves them numb or, incredibly cruel.
Yeah, they don't just magically level up.
Exactly. What we're really looking at in these storylines isn't a magical power-up. It's a fundamental crisis of identity. Loss forces them to discover a version of themselves that just, well, wouldn't have existed otherwise.
Right, because trauma is, it's kind of like a sudden massive inheritance of nuclear material. You certainly didn't ask for it, but now you have it.
Yeah,
And you have to do something with it.
that's a great way to put it.
Like, take Tanjiro. He comes home to find his entire family slaughtered and his sister cursed to be a demon. He could so easily build a bomb with that fallout.
Oh, absolutely.
But instead, he builds a reactor to power his compassion. He just outright refuses to let hatred dictate his character.
It's like fire, right?
Right,
It can forge a disciplined blade or it can just burn the entire house down.
Yes, and we see that house burn down with the darker alternative in Eren Yeager. Eren watches his mother get eaten and his home destroyed.
Right.
And he also gets that same nuclear inheritance. But his pain creates a purpose that warps into this imprisoning obsession.
I mean, he wants freedom, but his obsession with revenge eventually just consumes him. What's fascinating here is the core lesson. You don't control what happens to you. You only control the architecture of what you build inside yourself afterward.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But, this doesn't always start with a literal massacre.
Yeah.
Like, think about the last time you, the listener, lost something that totally defined you.
Right, an ego death.
Exactly. Maybe a career path you loved or a really defining relationship. That's an ego death.
Yep.
And that's exactly what Vegeta experiences. He doesn't lose a family. He loses his psychological superiority.
Yeah, Vegeta is a perfect case study in ego deconstruction. He arrives on Earth believing he's, well, the absolute apex.
The strongest in the universe.
Right. But then Goku surpasses him repeatedly. Psychologically, Vegeta essentially undergoes exposure therapy for his ego.
That sounds exhausting.
It really is. By constantly being dusted, his brain is forced to decouple his core self-worth from his literal power level. That's how he manages this enormous internal shift. He learns to respect someone stronger than him without devaluing himself.
Makes sense? And then, even when the trauma is unimaginably dark, like with Guts from Berserk, the survival mechanism isn't really what we expect.
No, it's not.
Guts endures horrific betrayal and violence. But he doesn't survive simply by being this tough lone wolf. He survives psychologically through his connection to others, people like Casca. It's a pretty stark reminder that human resilience is rarely a solo endeavor.
Definitely.
But wait, I have to challenge this whole framing for a second. When we look at these characters battling their literal demons or, these really exaggerated villains, aren't the writers just lazily making the villains literal mirrors of the hero's damage? Like, it feels a bit convenient.
I mean, it's easy to see it as a lazy trope, sure, but it actually perfectly illustrates Carl Jung's concept of the shadow.
The shadow.
Yeah, the shadow represents the rejected, suppressed, or violent aspects of ourselves that our pain creates. And anime is brilliant because it literalizes this exact internal struggle.
Right, like Thorfinn.
Exactly like Thorfinn. His childhood is stolen, and he becomes this revenge-obsessed killer. When he finally loses his target for revenge, his transformation only really starts when he literally confronts the violent person his trauma turned him into.
Oh, I see.
The monster they fight isn't just external, it's the unacknowledged self. Suppressing that trauma gives the shadow power, but acknowledging it is how they actually diminish the monster.
Okay, so if anime literalizes the shadow, modern psychology must have a real-world equivalent for this kind of confrontation, right?
Oh, it does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's called post-traumatic growth, and it ties directly into Viktor Frankl's existential philosophy.
The author of Man's Search for Meaning.
That's the one. Frankl argued that humans can endure enormous suffering, but only if they can find meaning within it. But we have to be incredibly careful with how we explain this mechanism.
Right, we can't romanticize the pig.
Precisely. Suffering isn't magical, and trauma isn't inherently noble.
Yeah, you don't just suffer and hear a level-up sound. The scar is definitely still there.
It is. Frankel's point is about finding meaning to change our relationship with the scar. The loss doesn't vanish.
No.
But by building a new identity around it, whether that's stronger relationships or a clearer sense of purpose, you actually alter what that scar means to your future.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I guess the real takeaway here isn't the tired cliche that suffering makes you stronger.
Definitely not.
It's that when suffering inevitably collapses your old identity, you still have an active role in deciding what that change actually means.
Right. You aren't the author of the tragedy.
But you hold the pen for the next chapter.
Yeah.
You decide what to build in the ashes.
It's the ultimate test of psychological alchemy.
I love that.
And
So I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over. If the most painful events in your life manifested right now as a literal anime shadow for you to confront, what exactly would that monster look like?